All right, good morning. I'm proud to be standing on the most secure border in the history of the nation today because of President Trump and his leadership. I'm proud to be standing next to CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott, who helped the president create the most secure border in the history of this nation, and data proves it. Look, when I came back the second time out of retirement with President Trump, he asked me to oversee three things. Securing the border, because the last 4 years in the Biden administration, it was an open border. Not because of mismanagement, not because of incompetence, by design. So he asked me, work with the professionals and create a secure border. And Rodney's going to talk about that a lot more in detail in a minute. He wanted me to oversee the historic deportation operation. And that's exactly what we're doing. Promises made, promises kept. The answers. Because of the open border the last 4 years, over 500,000 children were smuggled in this country. Last administration couldn't find 300,000 of them, approximately. Under President Trump's leadership, we have located over 62,000 children that the last administration weren't even looking for. Again, promises made, promises kept. And we're going to continue running down every lead of every child. And when we finish all those leads, we'll go back and do it all over again. As long as President Trump's in the Oval Office, we will never stop looking for these children. Now, I want to be clear. The 62,000 children were found. Some were perfectly safe with their families. They're just hiding out, didn't want to be deported, whatever. But many were in sex trafficking and forced labor. One's too many. So President Trump saved thousands of these children's lives and their futures. Secure border is saving thousands of lives every year. Under the last administration, over 4,000 aliens died making that journey. With a secure border, lives are being saved every day. Sex trafficking, a secure border means stronger national security. But most importantly, it means saving lives, saving aliens' lives and saving Americans' lives. I want to end one more thing before I turn it over to Rodney Scott. The attacks on the men and women of the Border Patrol and ICE are disgusting. These men and women put their lives online every day for this country to remove the worst of the worst. One of the reasons we have the most secure border in the nation right now, in addition to President Trump's leadership, Commissioner Rodney Scott, and the men and women wearing green and tan and blue, is because what ICE is doing in the interior. The Trump administration has sent a clear message. We are going to enforce immigration law without apology. That message is sent throughout the world, which means the most vulnerable people in the world are not going to give their life savings to a criminal cartel to come to a country where they know they won't be released. That alone is saving thousands of lives. Children aren't drowning in the river. Women ain't being raped by the cartels. And again, less drugs means more lives saved. President Trump and this administration is saving thousands of lives every month, and that's just a stone cold fact. I'm honored to be here with Rodney Scott, who's not only a friend. Together, we got over 70 years, 70, on border security and national, well respected by every one of these people wearing this uniform. Rodney Scott, you, go ahead.
It's my honor to be back in sunny San Diego, even if it's not quite as sunny today as we're used to. I did want to thank Tom, and I want to highlight for everybody, this is where Tom started his career. This is where I started my career. But also, this is where the strategy that President Trump endorsed for border security really started and was proven out. So I thought it was a very fitting place to come out and talk about the successes we've had over the last year. And Tom highlighted it, but this is, and I think you could ask anybody that's actually done this job that's a border security professional, We're currently experiencing the most secure border this nation has ever seen. We're at 92% identifying illegal entries, 92% lower than the peaks during the Biden administration. But let me put that into context for you a little bit more. In an hour and a half during the Biden administration, we caught more people than we're catching and seeing across the border illegally in a 24-hour period now. But why did we see that reduction? I want to be very clear based on my professional experience. Why are we seeing that reduction? We're seeing that reduction because President Trump came in and implemented policies and provided top cover for the men and women of CBP and ICE and other agencies doing border security to literally shut down the draw. What was the first thing we did was we made sure that we kept people in custody and throughout their process until they were properly adjudicated. If they were subject to it, if they were immediately illegal entering, they were subject to ER. But the thing is, we ended catch and release. And that was a huge draw, people being released into the United States. We are prosecuting people for illegally entering the United States today at an unprecedented level. We are prosecuting everything we can. If you assault a Border Patrol agent, a CBP officer, an ICE agent, we're going to prosecute you. If you lie to a Border Patrol agent or any federal official, we're going to prosecute you. We're literally just enforcing the laws that were already on the books. We're making sure that there are consequences in place. I want to highlight, this is not just CBP. I'm here representing CBP. But President Trump sent a clear message to his entire administration that border security is important, and you're all going to be on board. So both Tom and I participate in a call like 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. And I can tell you this government, the entire federal government, is united in a way I've never seen my entire career, focused on one thing: putting Americans first and making sure that we simply know and control who we're allowing into our home. Because I want to remind all of you, why does this really matter? Border security is national security. Sometimes I think people overly complicate this, but you need to think of it as simply just like your home. If you cannot identify and control and know who and what goes into your personal home, you have no personal security. And as a nation, if we can't identify people entering our home and then make conscious decisions based on laws that are put in place by Congress, who and what we're going to allow into our home, any conversation about security is a fraud. Customs and Border Protection, ICE, under the leadership and guidance and support of President Trump, is making sure that we simply can know first and foremost, and that's what a lot of this infrastructure around you is for. We can positively know anything and anyone coming into this country, and then we can make conscious decisions consistent with federal law on who we allow into our home. Because at the end of the day, it is our home. And we're talking about who are we letting next to our children? Who are we letting next to our families? What products are we allowing into the United States? The other piece of this is we slowed down this flow. What did that really mean to America? That meant we put Border Patrol agents, ICE officers, CBP officers back to doing the enforcement functions that you as Americans hired them to do, instead of administratively processing fraudulent immigration claims. I want to give you an example. Just at our ports of entry alone, by shutting down the fraud, we were able to take approximately 16,000 man-hours, 16,000 hours, and put them back on enforcement duties at the ports of entry. What does that really mean? That means we're interviewing people that are coming to the United States. We're asking them questions we didn't have time to ask before. We're looking in cargo trucks. We're looking at trains. We're looking at ships. We're looking at containers. We're making a conscious decision to know who and what comes into this country consistent with law. And that's just the ports of entry. In between the ports of entry, Tom talked about the unaccompanied alien children and the exploitation. Under the massive crisis that Biden intentionally created, where we had flows of people that we literally had no time to talk to anybody, it was just process people through, we had no idea what we were dealing with. Today, every single unaccompanied child that comes across that border is getting a good face-to-face debrief, an interview, if you will. We're carving out we call them children, but the teenagers that are gang members that are actually working for their cartel, bringing others across, we're carving them out. They're smugglers. We're going to prosecute them just like anybody else. They're facilitating, they're smuggling narcotics. We were not able to do that before. But just as importantly, we're able to identify children that are being trafficked, children that are being abused, and we're being able to get them the protections they need and carve them out. Why? Because the men and women to my right and around us today actually have time to do their job now, to actually interview people, figure out what's going on, and make a conscious decision of who we prosecute and how. You know what else we're doing? We're saving the economic. We are empowering the economy of this country through making sure that we rebuild middle America by having fair trade. You know, we're between the fences, but please don't forget it's Customs and Border Protection. The economic security of this nation is just as important as the physical entries here. The president's tariff initiative has brought in over $223 billion in increased tariffs. But just as importantly, it's required new data to be given to CBP. So we're eliminating huge vulnerabilities that were being exploited by the cartel to bring in fentanyl and other counterfeit goods. We're actually doing a lot to counter national, nation-state, I would call it, threats of other nations that are trying to exploit our tariff system by what we call transshipments, shipping products through a bunch of different countries to get away from paying tariffs. Why do we have tariffs? Because we want the American worker to have a fair opportunity. We want American businesses to have a fair opportunity. Our Customs and Border Protection officers are identifying those transshipments, stopping them, finding companies, and we are actually empowering the economy of this country by making sure that we put America workers back first.